Good morning. Welcome to Monday. How many times have you had a situation where you can't stop what you're doing? Like you think, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be saying this. I know this is not a good thing to do in business, in sales, with procrastination, with whatever it is. And you can't seem to stop yourself. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. And in order to help you with that, I'm going to share my screen here a little bit. I'm going to talk about the brain a little bit. So my background psychology, and what I found fascinating about my own procrastination, as I was struggling with it earlier on, is it's always related to emotions. I'm going to say it again in a different way. When we are procrastinating, when we are doing things we shouldn't be doing, we don't want to be doing, or when we're not doing the things we want to be doing, typically, generally speaking, it's about emotions. It's what emotions are going on in us. And I'm going to explain this for really a couple minutes, and you'll figure it out right away. So the way the brain works, we've got these different parts to our brain here. And legitimately, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to give you this basic outline. So we've got our breathing and our heart rate and our balance down at the bottom of the screen there. And then top left, you've got our logical thinking conscious brain. That's the top part of our brain. It's called our cerebral cortex, or a neocortex. And what it does, what it focuses on is logical stuff. It does a whole lot more than this, but that's basically our logical brain. Then if you look right in the middle there's an arrow pointing from our subconscious or emotional brain to that middle section. That's called our limbic system. It's a bunch of nerves, and it's tied to a lot of different things. But this is how we remember. This is our emotional states. There's a lot going on in here, and this is where our fight or flight reaction takes place. I'm going to repeat that. In our limbic system, in that middle part, our subconscious emotional brain, that's where our fight or flight reaction or response takes place. Now, why is this so important? The reason it's so important is because, did you know that when you are emotionally overwhelmed, blood flow is actually restricted to your logical brain, your conscious thinking brain? In other words, when you are feeling overwhelmed, there's a part of our brains, our limbic system, this emotional brain of ours, that takes up all the blood because it feels the need to protect ourselves. And what happens is it goes nuts and it reacts very strongly, but blood flow is restricted to our logical thinking brain. This is physiological. It's a fact. You can see it if you look at brain imagery. What this says to me, and what's amazing about this is, legitimately, when you are feeling overwhelmed, you can't think. I'm going to repeat that. When you are emotionally overwhelmed, you can't think. Have you ever spent time with a kid, a 2-year-old, a 3 or 4-year-old, where they're emotionally overwhelmed and you're trying to explain something to them and they're not hearing anything? Like you're acting absolutely irrationally, throwing a temper tantrum, whatever it is. But that happens to adults as well, too, doesn't it? It happens to all of us, where we are in a place where we are reacting rather than thinking. So when's the last time you got into an argument? This happened to me over the weekend. Family gathering. I'm not proud of this, by the way, but family gathering, and we're having what I thought was a decent conversation. It started going a little bit pear-shaped, and pretty soon me and my brother are kind of going at it, and I'm saying things, and I'm doing things that I know are not good for the relationship. I know are not positive for the growth of our relationship or for the family in general. And yet I kept engaged for a little while. Now, eventually I removed myself, but that inability to think. I teach this stuff to people, to my clients all the time, and yet I get caught in it every once in a while. What is going in that moment is that right now the thinking brain that is so focused on logical prowess and going, this is best for my long-term future. This is the delayed gratification. All these things. The thinking brain, what it does is it shuts down. What takes over is our emotional brain. Our emotional brain, the way this evolved is that our emotional brain, if you think about it, how did the human ancestors survive? We didn't survive when there were tigers, lions, and bears all around us. We didn't survive by going, every time I'm in a dangerous situation, it's fascinating. Look at the spears with those people. They've got fascinating spears. Let's take a closer look. No, those Mark's ancestors that did that died. The ancestors of myself that survived and passed their genes on to me were the ancestors who saw a spear, saw a saber-toothed tiger, whatever it was, and screamed and got out of there, or they fought with their own spear, or whatever it was. That's who survived. That's what has protected the human race for thousands and tens of thousands of years. So it's not odd to think that this is still governing our decision-making in many ways. That there's still this fight or flight response, this reaction, and that in that moment, our brains are saying, you don't need to think now, you need to be safe. And so they lash out or they hide. So I'm going to ask you right now, think of a situation. What is a situation currently where you tend to hide? Where you tend to feel overwhelmed and you tend to hide? Do you maybe ignore or play silence in a relationship? Or maybe when things get a little bit, you think there might be conflict, you don't even enter into the situation, you stay away from it. When does this happen for you? Or maybe even for the people that do hide, because most of us do both. We fight sometimes, we flee sometimes. What about those times where you fight, where you get into the argument and you get all crazy and say things you shouldn't say? This has happened, I'm positive, to you this week. This week, it's Monday. I'm positive it's happened already this week, because this is very normal, okay? Your emotional brain, it's in charge of your motivation, your decisions, your learning, your memory, your emotions, your senses. There's so much involved in this emotional subconscious brain. I'm going to shut this down here. If this is all going on in your head, and you're not actually able to think when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, then what's the key? What's the key to getting past procrastination? What's the key to getting things done that you want to get done and not doing the things you don't want to do? What's the key to strong relationships and strong business and sales and all of this stuff? What's the key if this is the case? The key is to learn to relax. That's the key of all of this. If you can learn to relax, you're going to feel fear at times. You're going to feel anger at times. You're going to feel delight at times. You're going to feel all these strong emotions. That's not the problem. The problem is not that we have emotions. The problem is that we have no way to manage our emotions most of the time, and instead just let them carry us off. So we make impulsive decisions in relationships or business or whatever it is, and then we don't do the things that are helpful for us. Instead of focusing on others. Let's talk about sales for a second. In the sales conversation, the best thing you can do is you can ask fantastic questions and listen to the other person. This is my whole business, whether it's sales, like actually selling my services, or whether it's simply selling somebody and motivating them on the things that they need to do for themselves, my coaching. I do this every day, influence. What influence means is I listen to the other person's side. I understand them, and I take the time to really hear them, no matter what's going on for myself. I listen to them. And at the end, I propose ideas, I challenge people in ways that align with their emotions, not with mine. And when I was arguing with my brother over the weekend, again, I'm not proud of this. When I was arguing with him over the weekend, what was happening is I was focused on me. And I thought, as soon as I removed myself from the situation, just calmed down a little bit, I was able to re-engage with my logical brain, my thinking brain. And I went, what am I doing here? Well, of course. I was focused on me. I wasn't focused on him. I wasn't focused on his needs. I was focused on me. And when I was focused on me, I was ready to fight or run away. That's what happens. As soon as I started focusing with him, I was able to engage with somebody. And in a sales conversation, this is so important. If you can listen and engage with somebody where they're at, instead of focusing on where you're at, you're then able to meet somebody's needs with whatever they are. That's the key. That's the key. Now, I realize this is a fairly short Facebook Live, and this is not going to change your life, just this little meaning. But here's what I'm going to do, because I always try to give an action step here. The action that you need to take hold of, and maybe I should put up my whiteboard here. Let's see. No, I'm not going to do it right now. Basically, the first action step that I'd really encourage you to do is you need to start slowing down your reaction time. Okay, this is built in very quickly for us. We don't, without even knowing what's happening, we simply start to react. And the key to this is simply slow down that process. So get into a habit of, after you've blown up, ask yourself, what happened there? What happened first? What happened second? What happened third? So for example, with my brother here, I would have said, like, okay, so we were having a conversation and I felt really engaged and I was really enjoying the conversation. And then there was an interruption, and that interruption, I felt unheard. And so there's this feeling of feeling unheard, and then I started reacting and try to claw back this space. So it was all about me, and I was focused on me, and then I started blowing up, and and getting to this disagreement, this argument with my brother. And then I left the situation. So I look back at that and I start breaking it down. And then what I can do is the next time I'm in that same situation or a similar situation, I can start asking myself, okay, where am I at right now? And as you start becoming more self-aware in the moment, mindful, people would say, practicing mindfulness in the moment, what starts to happen is I can have a choice to veer off in a new direction. So instead of saying, whoa, I've got this really strong reaction right now, what am I going to do about it? Now I can ask the question. And now I've got a choice. Do I engage and argue with somebody, or do I maybe ask a question and try to understand somebody more? Or do I remove myself from the situation in a gentle way, or whatever, right? Many options there. We only have options when we're able to think and slow things down. And here's a key concept. This is the key concept: practicing mindfulness. Practicing how to calm our emotions down and get grounded. That's basically what mindfulness is. It's focusing on the moment, so on our breathing or what's happening around us, what we hear, what we see, what we smell, whatever it is. But we're focusing on the here and now rather than getting carried away in our heads. It calms us down. And when we calm down, what we're able to do is engage with people rather than react to situations constantly. So if you're struggling with this, I'd encourage you to practice mindfulness. Get into a great mindfulness routine. There's a bunch of crap out there that teach mindfulness, people that are not very good, but there are also fantastic people who do this. So take the time, spend a bit of money. Make sure that you spend a bit of money to do this. It's something I used to teach people when I was working in addictions and mental health for a little while. But if you want help with this, reach out to me. Reach out via Facebook. I'll get my assistant to let me know what's going on, and I'll respond to your messages. All right. Have a fantastic week. Have a week filled with an ability to manage your state and engage with people rather than either run away or fight everyone that comes your way. Enjoy the process.